Hello, it's Moira here, and this tutorial is demonstrating how to work the tapestry section of the Daisy sampler. So we can see this is the tapestry version chart as it's got the section in the centre which is a different colour, and we're going to work this section using Tapestry Mosaic. This tutorial only looks at rows 19 to 39, the tapestry section, so please do refer to the first tutorial, section 1, the body, for rows 1 to 19. You should only work the tapestry section of the Daisy sampler if you're an experienced crocheter. I would not recommend this section for someone new to crochet. There are a couple of differences in the tapestry chart compared to the normal mosaic chart. It has an extra column which tells you the colour of the tapestry crochet, and the row column, which normally tells us the letter of the colour we're working on, has got two colours in it. The first letter tells us the mosaic colour and the second letter tells us the tapestry colour. Please read the working tapestry mosaic section under pattern notes before you start. On this particular pattern, I do not run the tapestry colour the whole length of the row. I only run the tapestry colour 6 stitches either side of the tapestry section. So I'm counting 6 stitches to the right and putting a dot in, and I'm going to count 6 stitches after the tapestry section and put another dot in, and I know this is where my colour starts and ends, where the dots are. So looking at my chart for row 19, I'm going to use the ruler to cover up what's coming above. I don't like seeing what's covering above. I can see that I need to start with a colour B for a mosaic colour and a colour D for the tapestry colour. I join my mosaic colour as usual with a first border stitch. Remember, into both loops a chain stitch to fix it and then a double crochet stitch to complete the first border stitch. I'm going to work row 19 following the pattern as normal until I come to that dot 6 stitches before my tapestry colour should be inserted. I've now come to the dot where I know that's where I actually wish to join in my tapestry colour. So insert your hook through your loop as usual and then get your tapestry colour and lay it across your hook, and then work your double crochet as normal. Now my tapestry colour is attached, I need to do another double crochet stitch, and again my tapestry colour is laid across my hook because it is incorporated into the stitch. I crochet over the colour. My next stitches I can see are drop trebles, so I'm going to work 3 drop trebles and the tapestry colour just trails behind at the back. So I have 3 drop trebles to work and then 1 double crochet before my tapestry colour is required. I'm now ready to work the double crochet. In tapestry crochet, you always change to the other colour, the stitch before it is required, and that's what we're going to do here. So you make your changeover when you've worked your stitch to the final 2 loops on the hook, and then you change to the other colour and you draw the tapestry colour through the loops. This is now giving me the tapestry colour to enable me to actually work that next double crochet stitch in the blue tapestry colour, which is my colour. I'm putting the mosaic colour over the loop, and then I'm working to the final 2 loops on my hook because the next colour is the mosaic colour. So I'm swapping my yarn again. I then complete my stitch in my mosaic colour. So I have 1 double crochet stitch to work in the mosaic colour. So I insert my hook, making sure that I take that tapestry colour with me and work my double crochet stitch. I can now work those 3 drop trebles that I've got to do. My tapestry colour is floating behind, and then when I've completed the final drop treble, I'm ready to work my double crochet stitches. I've only 2 now to do. and I'm making sure that the tapestry colour is going to be incorporated into these 2 double crochet stitches. And once I've done that final double crochet stitch, I can now finish with my tapestry colour. So I'm ready to snip it off as I'm now finished with it. I've left roughly 10 centimetre ends at either side of my tapestry colour, and that allows me to weave in the sections at the end. We do have these floating sections behind, but we deal with those in the next row. Continue following the chart for row 19 till the end of the row. So now row 19 is finished, we can still see that little bit of blue, that small little stitch just poking down in the centre of the row. Row 20's got no tapestry colour in it, we just work with our normal mosaic colour A. However, I am going to show you how to incorporate those floating stitches from row 19 in our tapestry colour into row 20. Work row 20 following the chart until you get to the stitch in the row below where you inserted the tapestry colour. I'm now at the stitch where I inserted my tapestry colour. I'm looking out for that floating yarn that the drop trebles created, as I'm going to incorporate that floating yarn into my next few stitches. Insert my hook as usual, and then I'm picking up the floating stitch behind and working a double crochet around it, and I'm going to do that for the next 2 stitches, so 3 stitches in all. You can see now that the stitches are now nicely incorporated. You don't have any loops anymore. So looking at my chart, I now have a drop treble to do around that tapestry colour. So the tapestry colour is a double crochet and then another drop treble. After the drop treble, we then have that loop of floating stitches again. So again, as we did before, I'm going to insert my hook and pick up the back of those stitches, and we are going to double crochet across both stitches. And again, we're doing it for 3 stitches. And we can see now, if we look, that you have got those stitches all caught up neatly, so they're not going to be catching on anything now, because you've actually managed to incorporate them into your body of your work. And now continue with row 20, just following the chart as usual. Row 20 is now complete, and we can just see the beginning of that tapestry section growing. Now we're going to look at row 21. And this time we've got 5 stitches in our tapestry colour. And I'm going to mark on my pattern, just like I did before, where that 6 stitches of the tapestry colour start and where they end. I've worked to the stitch where I need to join my yarn, so I'm now ready to get my tapestry colour and insert it as I did before by laying it across the hook. And now remember, I'm at the position where that dot is on my pattern. So we've got 1 double crochet to work before the drop trebles. So just as before, we insert our hook and we are going to then lay the tapestry colour over the hook, and we're going to work the double crochet around both colours. As in row 19, I've got 3 drop trebles to work, and my tapestry colour is just going to float behind those drop trebles. I've got 1 more stitch to work before my tapestry colour. Now remember, we changed the colour of our yarn on the stitch before the tapestry colour. So we work to the last 2 loops on our hook, and then we change over to our tapestry colour. So I've now got 2 double crochets to do in the tapestry colour. So this time it's the mosaic colour that's laid across the hook and picked up as part of the stitch. So we've got 2 to do of those, and now we've got our drop treble to do, and our mosaic colour floats behind, just as we did with the tapestry colour. We now have 2 more double crochets to do, which is in the tapestry colour. And you can see my yarns are getting a little bit tangled. You've got to be careful of this when you're working with 2 colours. So my final 2 double crochets in my tapestry colour. So that's 1 and 2. Now remember, this is the final one, so I need to change back to my mosaic colour. So when you're at the last 2 loops in your stitch, you change back to your other colour. And now I'm back working in my mosaic colour. And now I'm going to work the next 6 stitches with the tapestry colour behind. Sometimes they'll be incorporated as double crochets and sometimes they'll float with the drop trebles. So I'm just finishing the drop trebles here, and then I know I've got 2 double crochets to work before my tapestry yarn is cut. So these next 2 stitches, next 2 double crochet stitches, have got the tapestry yarn laid across the back and incorporated into the double crochet, and then I'm ready to snip the yarn, and that is us finished with the tapestry colour for row 21. I'm just snipping my tapestry colour yarn there and making sure that I've got roughly 10 centimetres left before I snip it. And now we've finished the tapestry section in row 21, we just follow the chart and complete the rest of row 21. So I can tick off row 21 and look at row 22. Row 22 is just following the chart, but we do have to remember to incorporate those floating pieces of yarn, those hooks if you like to call them that, from row 21. I've worked my pattern along to the stage where the hook or the floating piece of yarn is at the back. And remember, just like we did previously, we insert our hook into the loop of the double crochet and we pick up the loop of that floating piece of yarn. And we do this for the 3 double crochet stitches. Then looking at my chart, I've got to work a drop treble, 5 double crochets and a drop treble. And after that final drop treble, we now have got that floating piece of yarn. Again, we're going to work those 3 double crochets into and incorporate that floating piece of yarn into our stitches on this row 2. And we can see how neatly that's been incorporated into the back. So continue on row 22 and complete the chart. And now we've completed row 22, we can see the little T appearing, just like it looks like on our chart. So we now tick 22 and look at row 23. And just like on our previous tapestry rows, we're going to mark our chart 6 stitches from the beginning of the tapestry section and 6 stitches from the end of the tapestry section. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm about to add in my tapestry yarn on row 23. This should be very familiar now, that you just lay the tapestry colour over the top of your hook and then work your double crochet around the tapestry colour. And the next few stitches should be familiar too. We're working another double crochet and then 3 drop trebles. And remember that last double crochet, we are going to be changing our yarn colour. So we've worked our double crochet to the last 2 stitches on the hook, and now we're ready to change over to our tapestry colour so that we can work the next stitch in the tapestry colour. And we've got 2 double crochet stitches to work in our tapestry colour, remembering to lay your mosaic colour at the back and work it alongside your tapestry colour. And when you work the drop treble stitch, the mosaic colour will float behind the stitch. Then there are 3 double crochet stitches to work in the tapestry colour, again making sure you pick up that mosaic colour at the back. And then we have another drop treble where our mosaic colour will be floating at the back. And once we've worked that final drop treble, there are 2 more double crochet stitches to work, again making sure you pick up that mosaic colour at the back. And remember, on that last tapestry stitch, we now need to change the colour back to the mosaic colour. So the final 2 loops on your hook and you change the colour back to the mosaic colour. You then are working again with your mosaic colour at the front and your tapestry colour is either floating along or being incorporated into the back of the stitch. And once we're back to our mosaic colour, we're going to work those next 6 stitches before we snip off the yarn for our tapestry colour. Do make sure you remember to incorporate the tapestry colour at the back though. As you can see, I'm doing here on those final last 2 double crochets where we needed the tapestry colour. I'm now ready to snip my tapestry colour, and I will carry on working the rest of this row just following the chart. And we can now tick off row 23 and look at row 24. Row 24 is back to our colour A, and we still have those little hooks, those floating pieces of yarn to incorporate into row 24. I'm not going to demonstrate this row, so here's a quick recap on how to work it. So when you get to the 3 drop trebles from the previous row, you need to remember to pick up the floating piece of yarn and incorporate it as part of your double crochet. And remember to do this at both sides of the tapestry section. And our tapestry section is starting to be framed beautifully by our colour A. So we've now done row 24. We can have a look at row 25. I'm just going to mark my 6 stitches out from my centre as I've done in previous rows. I'm now at the stage in row 25 where I'm joining my yarn, and this should be very familiar now. There should be no surprises here. So joining the yarn by laying it over our hook, and then we just work our double crochet in our mosaic yarn over the top of it. We're now ready to work our next few stitches with the mosaic at the front and the tapestry colour at the back. And remember, the stitch before the tapestry colour, we swap our colours over. So our tapestry colour now becomes the front colour, and the mosaic colour becomes the back colour. And we'll continue like this, working our tapestry colour at the front and our mosaic colour at the back until we've actually completed those stitches for the tapestry section. And at the end of the tapestry section, the stitch before we go back to the mosaic colour, we need to swap our colour before the last stitch is finished. We'll then continue for the next 6 stitches with the mosaic colour at the front and the tapestry colour at the back, and then we can snip off our tapestry colour. Row 25 is now completed. I'm just going to look at the back just to let you see what it looks like. As you can see, our tapestry colour is starting to show. We've actually got some ends that are ready to be woven in, and those hooks will disappear in the next row, but the back is looking quite neat. So there's no worries that the back of our blanket will look untidy. And we can see what row 26 looks like. So we can tick that off. And looking ahead to row 27, there's no particular surprises there. Just going to work out my 6 stitches as normal and insert them into the chart. So on row 27 we follow the chart until we get to the dot that denotes where we attach our tapestry yarn. Then we join our tapestry yarn and work with our mosaic yarn at the front and the tapestry yarn at the back until the last stitch of the mosaic colour where we swap our yarns over. We are then working with the tapestry yarn at the front and the mosaic yarn at the back until the last stitch of the tapestry section. We then swap our yarns over once again. The tapestry yarn will go to the back and the mosaic yarn will come to the front. And we work with both these yarns in this order until we get to the dot on our chart which denotes the end of our tapestry yarn where we cut our tapestry yarn. Row 27 is now complete, so I'm going to tick it off. All the tapestry rows are worked the same way as we've just worked row 27. Therefore, I'm not going to demonstrate the tapestry rows from now on. I'm only going to show you what they look like once they are completed. So we've completed row 28, colour A. We can now tick that off. And looking ahead to row 29, we're going to mark off our stitches where we're going to start the tapestry section and end the tapestry section. And row 29 is also the last row on the bottom section of our body. So we're going to change charts after we work this row. So you're working row 29 the same way as you've worked all the previous tapestry rows. Now we've completed row 29, we can see that it really does look like our chart. And this is now the bottom section of the daisy sampler now complete. So we've finished with this chart, we're now ready to look at the chart for the top section. And here's the top of the body section of the daisy sampler. And whereas before we were working with the bottom section of the daisy sampler, we're now going to be working with the top section of the daisy sampler. And this top section is a flip image of what the bottom was. So starting on row 30, I am covering up all the rest of my chart so I can just see the row that I'm actually working on. I'm going to go and work row 30 and I'll be back once I've completed it. So row 30 is completed, I've already ticked it, and we're now going to look ahead at row 31. On our previous tapestry rows, we've been starting our tapestry colour 6 stitches before we needed it and 6 stitches after we finished with it. And we've been marking out these 6 stitches at either side of the tapestry section on our chart. However, if we count 6 stitches from the beginning of our tapestry section on this chart, it actually takes us to drop trebles. So we're actually going to count, instead of 6 stitches, we're going to count 3 stitches. So you can see that I've marked 3 stitches at either side of my tapestry section. That's where my tapestry yarn is going to be started and where it's going to end. I'm now at the stitch where the tapestry yarn needs to be joined, and this is no different from previous rows. However, we don't have 5 more stitches to work with the tapestry yarn at the back. We've only got 2 stitches. So I'm going to double crochet 1 stitch, and then the next stitch that I double crochet is the stitch where my yarn is actually swapped. My tapestry yarn now becomes my front yarn and my mosaic yarn becomes my back yarn. Because our pattern is now flipped, our drop treble is worked first before the double crochets. So you can see in the pattern here, we have 2 drop trebles and then a double crochet in the tapestry colour. We're just going to continue following the pattern on the chart with our tapestry yarn at the front and our mosaic yarn at the back until we get to that last drop treble in the tapestry yarn. Now that last drop treble, we actually have to change the colour of our yarn. So it's no different than working a double crochet. We work this stitch into the last 2 stitches on the hook. And you can see I nearly forgot that we were changing colour, so I had to actually work my stitch slightly back to the last 2 stitches. I'm now changing to the mosaic colour by pulling the mosaic colour through those last 2 stitches, and I'm now going to work with the mosaic colour at the front and the tapestry colour at the back through the next 3 stitches. And once you've completed those 3 stitches, you snip your yarn off and continue with the rest of the chart for this row. And now we've finished row 31, we can tick it off, and we're more than halfway through our tapestry section. Looking ahead to row 32, we're back to our colour A, and just looking at the back of our section with row 31. There are no loops this time because there were no treble crochets that we actually had to float the yarn across like we did in the previous tapestry rows. So in row 32 and the following rows you will not have to look for those floating stitches to pick up with your colour A yarn. I'm just counting the amount of drop trebles that the pattern matches what I've actually worked. It's always good to know that you've got the same amount. And I'm now going to tick row 32 as we've now completed it, and looking at the chart for row 33, I'm going to mark on it where I want my tapestry yarn to be inserted and where I want my tapestry yarn to finish. And remember that it's 3 stitches we're marking at either side of the tapestry section in this top part of our daisy sampler, compared to the 6 stitches we marked off in the bottom section. So we've now completed the tapestry row for row 33, and we can see I'm just again checking that my drop trebles were lined up, and we're going to look at row 34, which is just back to our colour A. And just scanning along the tapestry section of the chart, I can see that there are 4 drop trebles. And again, looking at the back, there are no loops to incorporate in this row. So I'm just off to work this, and I'll see you back once I've worked the colour A row. So row 34, all complete, can be ticked off. Let's have a look at row 35. Just remember, when you're actually going to mark out those stitches to actually start and stop your tapestry yarn, there are 3 stitches either side of the tapestry section. And our tapestry pattern is actually really building up now. We've actually only got 2 more rows of tapestry, the blue colour, to actually work now we've completed row 35. So row 36 is now complete. I'm loving how this is coming up so quickly now that we're actually working back up on the top section. I'm just going to mark on my chart where to start and stop my tapestry yarn on row 37. And I'll see you back once row 37 is complete. Now row 37 is complete, we're only really missing that top drop treble. You can see that very last drop treble that we will work on row 39. Just scanning the pattern for row 38 to make sure that there are no surprises. I will see you back at the end of the row. Row 38 now is completed, and we've got our very last tapestry row to do. We've only got 1 stitch of tapestry, so we will have a very short piece of yarn that we are going to be working with. Just marked out the stitches now, and I'm now ready to work this row. And now we've completed row 39. I'm just going to work the next colour A row, row 40, so that we can see what the tapestry section looks like once it's framed by our colour A. And that's our Tapestry Mosaic diamond section now completed. And looking to the back of our chart, we can see that we have a few ends to weave in. There aren't many, so just weave them in to make sure that our tapestry yarn is secure. And you can see once they've been woven in how neat it looks. It doesn't detract at all from the back of the blanket. It still looks just as pretty as it normally does with our mosaic crochet. I'm going to continue working with my chart until the end of the body section at row 59. If you want to see what the next 10 rows look like once they've been worked, you can hop on over to the tutorial for section 1, the body. And this part of the tutorial starts at 39 minutes. And enjoy working the rest of the daisy sampler.